What is good, all you cool cats and kittens? This is your Commissioner Tim back at you for the first video of the third season of the CCK Dynasty League. That's right, it's 2023 Week 1 recap and power ranking video, gentlemen. As you can see from this video, I'm starting something new for this year, and that includes not just our intros, but also our weekly recaps and power rankings, and it starts from the visuals that you see. So we're gonna do something a little bit different. We're gonna kick this week off with the recaps, and it's also include the power rankings in the same exact video. And as I mentioned in the sleeper chat, I've introduced this new Nostradamus pick'ems type of a week-to-week mini game competition format. I don't know what the awards are going to be, but I'm definitely going to make sure that it's something that we all celebrate and have fun with. And so you'll see that in terms of how we're centralizing the weekly recaps of this video format going forward. All right, so you're going to see a lot less of my face and a lot more commentary on the recaps and the power rankings going forward. So enjoy the visuals and we'll get it started. Starting with matchup 1, Brady's third dynasty ended up scoring the league high and took home the opening week win against one of our new managers, Brad. Brad put up a good week though. Puka Nacua is probably going to be one of the biggest waiver names in the fantasy world, and Brad picked him up with the 4th round pick. This guy led the league, tied with Tyreek at 15 targets. Now, we'll see if it's a week 1 fluke or not, but you don't get 15 targets by not being a good player. I also want to make sure that I state that Tua looked great. He's probably a locked-in top 10 dynasty quarterback now. Eve, I hope Bryce Young is worth the difference between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Obviously, the big news was the Aaron Rodgers injury on Monday Night Football, but I think we will see many competitive weeks from Brad this season, even without Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback too. Ryan finally gets a quality start from his draft and stash quarterback from 2021's starter draft in Deshaun Watson. On top of that, Miami's offense just looks like a group to buy into, and Ryan's got both Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Last thing I'll mention about Ryan in week 1 is I think he's got a thing for Austin Eckler's backups. In 2011 championship week, it was picking up Justin Jackson, who went off for 30 plus to get him the inaugural season trophy. This year is Joshua Kelly, who not only had a great week 1 as RB10, but looks potentially on track to be the sole running back in week 2 and beyond, depending on the severity of Eckler's injury. So here's the new format. Let's see how y'all picked on this matchup. All 8 of you who participated were correct. And it's not a knock on you, Brad. I think you'll have some upsets people will bet on this season with how your roster played in this season opener. All right, so moving over to matchup 2. Now this was the matchup of the week for me. This was the matchup everyone had highlighted when the schedule was released. Now it's kind of a letdown in terms of competitiveness, but week 1 was just rusty for every single offense not named the Miami Dolphins. So that said, Kyle's got to be excited. Mike Evans got a 30% target rate in the new look Tampa Bay offense, along with similar target rate for Michael Pittman in the Colts offense. Neither of them has started for the Meerkats in week 1, but I expect to see them make a starting roster soon. The one yellow flag on Kyle's that I'll be looking at closely going forward is Josh Jacobs' efficiency. My Las Vegas neighbor just did not look good running the ball. 48 yards and 19 carries. I think Kyle's contention is going to be tied to whether or not Josh Jacobs is a top 8 running back or not this year. He did have 340 carries in the regular season last year, so not quite the curse of 370, but close enough to where it looks dangerous. Moving over to Bills Mafia, this team is going to be in its own tier if Brandon Ayuk becomes a top 10 wide receiver for this season. He certainly can, and week 1 showed that. Even if he only has 1 touchdown instead of 2, he still would have finished as a top 4 wide receiver for the week. And Bijan, the prized 101 pick in the rookie draft of this year, had quite the highlight for his rookie debut, and he's going to end up dominating the ATL backfield by week 5, which probably means 20 plus points a week. And there aren't going to be many weeks where Bills Mafia only gets 32 points between Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. So I think, honestly, the fantasy gods were being kind to the rest of the league with what happened to J.K. Dobbins and Aaron Rodgers, which directly detriments Garrett Wilson. likely otherwise massive year. I don't say this lightly, but Bills Mafia is scary, and it might take another 3 weeks, just another 3 weeks, for his roster to really separate from the pack. So that said, let's see how y'all pick this matchup. Basically a unanimous pick to the Bills Mafia if you take the self pride and Canada pride out. 6-2 for Bills Mafia. All right, moving over to matchup 3. All I can say is thank the scheduling gods, because week 1 was horrendous for me. Thankfully, Josh Allen stopped at just 4 turnovers and not 6, because that would have lost me the matchup. People saying fantasy stacking is the way to win. I'd like to beg to defer. If Justin Fields doesn't know how to play quarterback and I got his wide receiver 1 stacked with him, I'm getting 2 donuts instead of just 1, which is what happened this week. Now, speaking of donuts, DeAndre Swift got all of 3 touches. Thankfully, Sirianni stated in the post-game conference that he doesn't expect to see that again, but you won't see Swift in my starting lineup until the numbers actually start to show. To be honest, I'm just quite sad at how my sophomores did, sans Breece Hall. To be honest, if Drake London, Treylon Burks, and George Pickens combined for 9.8 points between the 3 in their opening of the highly anticipated sophomore year campaigns, I am cringing all day at that. Now, I'm going to write out this roster for the next few weeks at minimum, but if things don't change, there's going to be some changes coming. This is not an ironclad roster like I thought going into this year. Now, moving over to our beer mile record holder, Mr. Ambassador. I think I had to have been pleased with his performance in week 1. He came in wishing for just 95 points. Not only did he get that, but he got the outputs from the players that matter the most to his rebuild. Jordan Love looked like a future star and looked to be more comfortable with each series. Zay Flowers looked like an early contender for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He actually beat Lamar's true wide receiver 1 for the first time ever in Lamar's era. That guy looked electric. Sergey might be our league's best talent scouter. Last year, he focused on Christian Watson. This year, between Zay Flowers and Rashee Rice, he's got something cooking. I think his roster is filled with a lot of players with a lot of promise as well. Just going to be a couple more marquee cornerstones over the next couple of years, and Sergey is going to be hunting for the trophy. Now, all of you picked me, but this probably scared you all down to the wire more than what it should have been. Matchup 4. This one was the other matchup after Bills Mafia and Moncton Meerkats that I was looking forward to. Both managers in the playoff tier, both looking for their first playoff taste in CCK season. Unfortunately, the Bengals offense imploded and Houston got no chance. Travis traded for T. Higgins a couple of weeks ago for his 2025 first. While this trade could end up looking genius as soon as next week or foolish in a season or two, this was another example of a quarterback wide receiver stacking gone wrong. 3.18 points between Joe Cole and T. Higgins. Highlight for Dicka, though, has to be how Chris Olave performed. I think Chris Olave has a chance to be a top 5 dynasty wide receiver by the end of the season. Now, moving over to Full Jerry, I'm excited about John's roster and his chances this season, seriously. Not only do I think he's got a lock for the playoffs, I actually legit think he's a contender. Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Amon-Ra, and Calvin Ridley all look like elite top 5 options at their positions. And he's also got Devonta Adams and Devonta Smith, who are always going to be great options. Now, similar to me watching Josh Jacobs in Kyle's roster, I'm looking at Derrick Henry and Najee Harris on John's roster as the needle movers for contention or not. Derrick Henry got outsnapped in the season opener by another running back for the first time since 2018. Thankfully, not outtouched or even close to it, as he had 18 touches to 7 for Tyjae Spears. But if his snap count is going to be significantly lower, and it also pairing with lower efficiency just due to his age, Derrick Henry may not be in the top 12 running backs this year, and that's why it's even more important to see how Najee Harris does, in my opinion. Jerry is going to need one of those two to finish in the top 10 this year in order for him to really make a push into contention. But regardless, what a step up it is this season for Jerry after 2 really disappointing first 2 seasons of CCK due to injury and bad luck. Now, as for how you all called it matchup, this one was the closest one at 5-3. We are still yet without any upsets. The majority have picked every matchup in week 1 correctly, but I'm sure in future weeks we'll have plenty. Moving over to the last matchup, I'm not going to say anything about Eve's team here because I don't understand how you take a perennial contending roster and break it apart down to what he's got now. I'm not talking about just a roster. I'm talking about the draft assets as well. I'm really upset at myself for trading back Eve's first for Sergey's first in Boston. I don't see how Eve will ever beat anyone in max points So he's a guaranteed #1 odds for Caleb Williams Drake May sweepstakes this offseason. That said, I want to give a shout out and make sure we give credit where it's due to Kevin. Kevin, I think you drafted a real one, Anthony Richardson. I know you wanted Bryce Young, but you made the right call. And while we don't know how he will end up as an actual NFL quarterback in his rookie debut, you saw how little AR needs to do to produce 20-plus points for you. You've got yourself a pillar in Anthony Richardson, and Jordan Addison looked really solid too. So this concludes also the last of the unanimous correct picks from week 1. Based on these week 1 performance, I think we can bet there will be at least one unanimous pick per week by the league, and it's any matchup where Eve is in. Okay, so that does it for the matchups. This is the Nostradamus tally that I'm going to be including every single week with this video going forward. And then if you go into my favorite part of the videos, it's going to be the season power rankings. Now, the early part of the season is always going to be based off of the likelihood of this roster making the playoffs. So early wins and losses certainly make a big impact to that. Towards the mid and latter part of the season, it will be based on who I think has the highest likelihood to win it all. So that said, starting with the first power rankings after week 1 of the third season of CCK. At number 10, no surprise, we're looking at Two Shots, No Cup in his own tier that I've called Trying to Beat Sergey's Time. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Eve got to see how 2 other teams tore down in successful rebuild, but this is where we are. Start training now to beat Sergey's time of 10 minutes, 33 seconds. At number 9, we've got Mr. Ambassador in a tier above Eve, called the probably not, but maybe tier. Sergey might be the best talent scout in the league. Like I said, Zay Flowers gives me the Antonio Brown vibes. Rashid Rice could end up the wide receiver 1 to Mahomes, and Jordan Love actually looks like he can play. Sergey, I know you want to trade a lot of these players, but maybe try to think about which one of these players could be a marquee pillar player, because I think a lot of these guys have tremendous value for you long term. Number 8, in the same tier, I've got Kevin. Anthony Richardson looks like a great hit. Addison looks like a solid player. This roster is going to come together with a few more key draft picks just like that. Not just now, but all great things take time. Number 7, I got Wooksy Fingerhold in a tier above called One of These Two Has to Make It. So it's got number 7 and number 6, and we know that one of them is going to have to make the playoffs. Puka Nacua led the league with 15 targets, with Jacoby Myers with 10, 2 touchdowns. Obviously a tough blow for Aaron Rodgers' injury, but I really feel like there's a chance for playoffs with this roster this year. I don't think I'm the only one. Moving over to number 6, same tier. We got Huge Ditka. The Bengals imploded, and Ditka obviously got screwed. This is probably season low for him. That happened in week 1, but still got him as a favorite for playoffs last seed ahead of Wooksy, but Ditka's also got the toughest first 4 weeks schedule-wise. At the end of the 4 weeks, heading into 5th week, he could be 1-3 or 0-4, and if he's either of those things, playoff seeding is going to be really, really hard to come by. Moving on to number 5, I've got Canada's own Monty Meerkats in a playoff contender tier. He also probably had the likeliest season low in week 1. Not really worried about his playoff chances. I think there were equal amounts of question marks as positive marks to offset from week 1, as I mentioned in his matchup recap. I do have to make sure that I credit Kyle here, because I actually think the rankings should have him higher at number 4, because at number 4, trust the process, I think I am certainly below Kyle, same in the playoff contender tier, because question marks galore in week 1 for me. Justin Fields and DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Drake London, Treylon Burks, George Pickens, all those names are massive question marks, and that's not even talking about Breece Hall or JT whenever they're going to be coming back. Although Breece Hall looked really great, obviously you can't count on 86-yard breakout rushes every single game. But that's just where my roster is. It's just going to be really, really hard to contend unless those question marks are addressed. And we're just going to have to revisit in the midseason to see where my roster is at that point. And moving over to number 3, kicking off the new tier of bye-week contenders is Brady Stewart Dynasty. While Tyreek's not going to score 39 points every week, I think this might be one of the deepest rosters in the entire league. He scored a league high by a mile with just 6.6 from Jamar. And I think Brady's third dynasty is going to continue to be in this tier that he's been in since the inaugural season. And just like a robot, he's quietly in the background working his ass to make sure that he's always got a chance to get another ring. Moving over to number 2, I gotta be super happy for Full Jerry here. Like I said in his recap, he's got some pillars that look like top 5 options. I really think this might be Jerry's year after 2 incredibly disappointing seasons filled with bad luck. All right, well that does it here. So it leaves us with number 1, Bills Mafia, bye-week contender. Same tier as the top 3, but like I said, it might only take 3 or 4 more weeks until he's in a tier of his own with how his roster looked in week 1. Truly started from the bottom, now we're here. J.K. Dobbins is out for the season, but I still can't see a team beating him in a best-of-5 series. He's got top-end firepower with incredible depth. Book him for a bye week. Okay, folks, so that does it for the first week recap of the 2023 season. It's a pleasure to do these videos. It's exciting to have all of us back in front of our TVs on Sundays, talking shit, on Sleeper Chat, whatever it may be. This is probably the happiest 4 months of my life, being able to make these videos and spend time with you guys. So looking forward to more of these weeks coming ahead. Looking forward to the next 16 weeks of matchups ahead. We got one in the books. Week 2 coming in on Thursday this week. Peace, boys.